My parents told me I was a failed investment. After I refused to pay their mortgage, so I bought a house 3 blocks away just to remind them. I'm a 29-year-old software engineer, and for as long as I can remember, my parents have treated me less like a son and more like their retirement plan. Ever since I landed my first internship, they started dropping lines like, "All our sacrifices will finally pay off." It sounded harmless back then, even loving, like they were proud. But with time, I realized what they really meant was, "You owe us for everything." Growing up, our house revolved around money. Every meal, every argument, every "I love you" somehow came with a price tag. My dad worked double shifts, and my mom made sure I never forgot it. "We gave up everything for you," she'd say, even when I was just asking for a break from studying. My older sister, Amanda, wasn't as lucky. She was labeled the disappointment because she dropped out of college to work retail. All the pressure shifted to me, their golden child, their investment. Now, years later, I've got a good job, a decent apartment, and what I thought was peace. But that peace feels fragile. Every phone call from them comes with that familiar tension, the kind that starts with small talk and ends with guilt. Last week, Mom said it again, that line that used to make me proud when I was younger. "We didn't raise you to forget where you came from." Only this time, it hit different. It didn't sound like pride, it sounded like a threat. I hung up the phone and just stared at the wall for a long time, realizing something I'd been avoiding for years. In my family, love wasn't unconditional, it was transactional, and I was about to find out just how high that transaction cost really was. I've always believed that love from parents should feel warm, like a blanket, not a leash. But lately, it's felt like I'm being tugged in every direction by invisible strings made of guilt and expectation. After that last call, my mother's words kept echoing in my head. "We didn't raise you to forget where you came from." A few days later, she texted, "Your dad and I were thinking, maybe you could help with the property tax this month, just until we catch up." Just until we catch up. That phrase was starting to sound like a lifelong subscription. I agreed the first time, transferred the money and told myself it was just being a good son. But the requests kept coming. Electricity bill, roof repair, a little help for a new washing machine. Each one dipped into my savings a bit deeper. When I hesitated once, Dad called that night. "We sacrificed everything for you, Alex. You wouldn't even have that job if it weren't for us. Don't act like we're strangers." His tone wasn't angry. It was disappointed, and somehow that hurt more. Every favor came with a reminder of their sacrifices. The extra shifts, the old car sold for my tuition, the years they claimed to have gone without. I started realizing something I'd been too afraid to admit. Every act of love from them came with a receipt attached. Even the memories I once cherished were now used as leverage. That night, I checked my balance and saw how much I'd sent over the past year. It was enough for a down payment on my own home. But in their eyes, it still wasn't enough, and deep down I could feel it. The next favor was coming soon. I just didn't know it would shatter everything. The dinner started like any other family gathering, with fake smiles and the unspoken tension that always lingered under the surface. I'd driven an hour to my parents' house because Mom said, "It's important. Your father wants to talk." I already knew what that meant. As soon as I sat down, Dad cleared his throat and slid a stack of papers across the table. "It's time you step up, Alex," he said. "You're doing well now. You should take over the mortgage. It's a family home. Your home." I froze. "Wait, what?" Mom jumped in before I could finish. "We're not asking for much. Just take the monthly payments. We'll handle the rest." I tried to stay calm. "Mom, Dad, I've been helping with your bills for years. I'm saving for my own place. I can't take on another mortgage." The silence that followed was sharp enough to cut through the air. Mom's face crumpled and tears welled up instantly. "Ungrateful," she whispered. "We worked our fingers to the bone for you. This is how you repay us?" Dad's expression hardened. He didn't yell. He didn't need to. He leaned back and said coldly, "You were supposed to be our success story, not our failure. Looks like you were just a bad investment after all." That sentence hit like a punch to the gut. My own father had just reduced me to a stock that didn't perform well enough. Amanda, who'd been quietly stirring her drink, slammed her fork down. "You can't talk to him like that," she snapped. Dad glared at her. "You stay out of this. You've done enough disappointment for one lifetime." I looked between them. My crying mother, my furious father, my trembling sister, and something inside me cracked. That was the night I stopped being their son and started becoming something else entirely. After that dinner, I stopped answering their calls, not out of anger but out of exhaustion. Every word from them felt like a demand dressed as love. I muted the family group chat, deleted their texts, and tried to focus on work. Days turned into weeks, and the silence between us grew heavy. Then came the social media posts. My mother's subtle quotes about ungrateful children and forgetting who fed you. Family friends began calling me out of nowhere, saying things like, "You know they're struggling, right? It's your duty." Duty! That word burned. The worst part, I missed them. I missed the idea of family, the warmth that never really existed. I found out through Amanda that they weren't struggling because of bills or health issues. They were behind on their mortgage because they'd spent thousands remodeling the house, a new deck, an outdoor kitchen, a vacation to Cancun to ease stress. When I heard that, the guilt I'd been drowning in turned into anger. They'd used me like an ATM, and when I stopped dispensing, they painted me as the villain. Amanda tried to comfort me. "You can't fix people who think love is a transaction," she said. Her words stuck with me. For the first time in my life, I stopped trying to prove my worth to my parents. But deep down, I knew they weren't done with me. And I was right, because their next message wasn't about money. It was about desperation. 2 months passed before Mom called again. Her voice was shaky. "Alex, please. They're threatening to take the house. We'll lose everything." I stayed quiet. She kept talking, mixing guilt and panic in equal parts. "You're our only hope. Your father's health isn't good. We raised you better than to abandon us." My chest tightened, but I didn't say what I wanted to, that I'd already lost them long ago. Instead, I told her I'd think about it. Later that night, Amanda texted me screenshots from a neighborhood group chat. My parents were telling everyone I'd finally agreed to pay off the mortgage. I hadn't. They were using my silence as proof of obedience. Something inside me snapped. For years, I'd let them dictate my choices, from college to my first apartment. I'd worked nights, saved every penny, and given them more than they ever gave back emotionally. Now, they wanted control over the one thing that symbolized my independence, my future. I met with a realtor the next morning. It wasn't revenge. It was symbolism. I wanted to live life on my terms, even if it was just a few blocks away from their house, a silent reminder that I didn't need their approval anymore. When I signed the offer for a house 3 streets over, my hands trembled. It wasn't fear. It was liberation, but freedom always comes with a cost, and mine was about to show up at my doorstep. The day I got the keys, I stood in the empty living room for hours. Sunlight poured through the curtains like forgiveness. For the first time, I felt peace, the kind that comes when you stop apologizing for wanting more. I spent weeks painting walls, assembling furniture, and learning to enjoy silence. Every nail I hammered into the wall felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. Then, one morning, Amanda called. "They know," she said. Apparently, my parents found out I'd bought a house 3 blocks away through a neighbor. Within hours, my phone exploded with messages. "Mom, you did this to humiliate us." "Dad, you mock us by living nearby? You want people to talk?" I didn't respond. That evening, my mom showed up outside, shouting from her car. "You've become cold, Alex. You've changed." I stepped onto the porch, calm as stone. "You're right," I said. "I finally have." Her tears didn't move me anymore. They weren't tears of love. They were tears of lost control. I shut the door gently, not out of anger, but peace. Still, I knew it wouldn't end there. Because people like my parents don't handle losing control. They escalate. It started with whispers. Neighbors I barely knew began avoiding eye contact. One even said, "Heard you kicked your parents out?" I didn't need to ask where it came from. My parents had turned the neighborhood into their stage, and I was the villain. They spread stories that I'd stolen their dream home, that I was punishing them for raising me. They even parked their car across from my driveway every evening just to make their presence known. Amanda moved in temporarily after a huge fight with them. "They're obsessed, Alex," she said. "Dad says he'll make everyone see the truth." I shrugged it off at first, but one night I came home to find a note stuck to my door. "Ungrateful children end up alone." My heart sank. The handwriting was unmistakably my father's. Instead of reacting, I did the one thing they couldn't handle. I ignored them. I smiled when they drove past, waved when they scowled, and focused on rebuilding myself. It infuriated them. The more peace I found, the louder their chaos grew. Still, a part of me wondered, how far would they go to make me feel guilty again? The answer came sooner than I expected. One Sunday morning, I woke up to shouting outside. My parents were in my driveway, arguing loudly enough for the entire street to hear. Neighbors peeked through blinds as my dad yelled, "This is what failure looks like." I stepped outside, calm but shaking inside. "Go home," I said. Mom fell to her knees, clutching her chest, crying out, "You're killing me, Alex! You're killing your mother!" Theatrics. But still, it hurt. Someone called the police. When officers arrived, they asked me if I wanted to press charges for trespassing. I couldn't answer. Watching my parents escorted away, their faces red with rage and humiliation, felt like a scene I'd never imagined living. That night, I sat on my kitchen floor and cried, not because I missed them, but because I finally saw how broken our bond really was. They weren't parents anymore. They were strangers who believed I owed them my life. I had hit my rock bottom. I was alone, emotionally drained, and unsure if any of this had been worth the cost of peace. But life has a way of giving you clarity, especially when you least expect it. A week later, Amanda came home from visiting a family friend looking pale. She sat on my couch twisting her hands. "There's something you need to know," she said. She handed me a folder. Documents she'd found in Dad's office. Mortgage refinance papers. My name was on one of them. Only I never signed it. My stomach dropped. "Are you telling me they—" She nodded. "They used your name. Faked the signature. The bank thinks you co-signed." I felt my whole body go numb. Betrayal was one thing. Fraud was another. My parents had crossed a line I didn't even know existed. Amanda started crying. "He told Mom it didn't matter. Said, he owes us his future anyway." Those words burned more than any insult ever could. I spent the night staring at those papers, realizing my entire life had been built on guilt. And now, theft. For the first time, I wasn't just hurt. I was furious, and that fury was about to change everything. I called them the next morning. My voice didn't shake this time. "Come over. We need to talk." They arrived, smug, assuming I'd finally caved. Mom smiled like she'd already won. Dad crossed his arms. "You ready to do the right thing?" I slid the documents across the table. "Did you really think I wouldn't find out?" Their faces shifted from arrogance to shock. Dad stammered. "It was just paperwork. Family business. No harm done." "No harm," I said quietly. "You forged my signature. You stole my name," Mom's voice quivered. "We only did it because we love you. We thought you'd understand." I laughed. Not out of humor, but disbelief. "You don't love me. You love control." I pulled out my phone and showed them a draft of a police report. "This ends now. You fix this, or I do." For the first time, my father looked afraid. Not angry, afraid. They left without a word. And for the first time in my life, I felt something close to freedom. Not peace yet, but justice waiting in the distance. The silence that followed was deafening. No calls, no texts, just emptiness. Then one evening, there was a knock on my door. Amanda stood there with tears in her eyes. "They want to talk," she said softly. I agreed, but on my terms. When they arrived, I didn't invite them in. I stood at the door, firm. "This is your last chance," I said. "Apologize, mean it, or lose us both for good." Mom's eyes flickered with guilt, but Dad's pride stood taller. "We don't apologize to our own blood," I nodded. "Then you don't have any." The door clicked shut. It was such a simple sound, but it felt like a lifetime closing behind me. For once, I wasn't the boy trying to earn their love. I was the man choosing his peace. And that silence? It didn't feel empty anymore. It felt like healing. Months passed. Life became quiet. Beautifully, peacefully quiet. One morning, Amanda texted me a photo. A for sale sign on our childhood home. They were moving. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel joy. I just felt done. When the moving trucks came, Amanda and I stood on my porch 3 blocks away watching from a distance. It felt poetic. The house that once defined my worth now fading into someone else's life. A young couple moved in weeks later. They looked like us years ago, full of hope, naive about what family really means. As I watched them unload boxes, Amanda said, "You think they'll turn out like Mom and Dad?" I smiled faintly. Not if they learn to love without keeping score. For the first time, the air around that house didn't feel heavy anymore. It felt free. I turned back to my home, my own home, and felt something I'd been chasing all my life. Peace without guilt, and maybe that's the real revenge. Living happily 3 blocks away from the people who once called me a failed investment.